let's talk about half of the fandom's favorite character, Irep. Now, right off the bat, I don't hate Irep because there's not enough of a character there for me to hate. Irep suffers from writer uncertainty. The writers don't really know what to do with him, and it shows. It showed in the original series, and it's showing in A New Wish. I guess I should say showed in A New Wish, past tense, because there's no fucking way Nickelodeon's greenlighting something that's not SpongeBob for another season. Anyway, the biggest problem with Irep is that he doesn't know what he is. The writers don't know what he is. It's very hard to feel invested in a character that doesn't feel grounded to the story in some way. For example, characters like Crocker or Vicky from the original have a simple purpose: sow discord and make Timmy or Hazel's life harder. They have simple goals for this. Vicky enjoys tormenting people. Crocker is looking for proof of fairies. Their motivations are easy to understand, and thus so are their actions. They are not complex characters. They don't have to be because they have a purpose and they serve it just fine. Irep, on the other hand, what exactly is the point of having him in a story? Irep has no personal stakes in the plot, which is fine. He doesn't necessarily need to, as long as he has some sort of connection to the characters. But Irep doesn't even have that in A New Wish. Take A New Wish season finale, for example. He helps Dev take over Fairy World, but why? He doesn't seem to have a personal interest in doing this. It's just something that all anti-fairies want because they're evil. But if that's the case, then why have Irep be the main antagonist at all? Do you see what I mean? Irep can functionally be replaced by any other anti-fairy, and this plot goes down exactly the same. That is bad. That is a sign of bad writing. Irep alludes to having some sort of own personal vision for Fairy World, but this is only used to separate Dale from Dev, and we hear none of Irep's so-called vision. He doesn't do anything except grant Dev's wishes, and he doesn't even twist them the way a genie might. He grants them to the letter. As a plot point, Dev might as well have just stolen some random fairy's wand, and it would be functionally the same. There is no point to have Irep in this story. He does not do anything for himself. I have no idea what his motivations are for helping Dev. I can't even tell if he genuinely likes Dev or not. His relationship with Dev is tentative at best and begins and ends at what they can do for each other, or so it appears. It's anyone's guess as to what his motivation is. He could be doing all of this because he thinks it's funny. He could be doing this to make his dad proud, which would have been a nice parallel, but we don't have time for that because the plot has to keep moving and there's too much going on and none of it matters or is important in the slightest. He could be doing this because he hates Perry. For some reason, they aren't friends anymore like they were when they were children. I don't know. One of the things that the original series did that was smart was connecting Irep's character to Perry's. Even the fandom recognizes that Perry is Irep's strongest relationship, which is why if you go on AO3 and filter out any mention of Perry, the number of works involving Irep drops from 327 to 43. What does A New Wish decide to do with this really strong relationship? Nothing. In fact, Irep and Perry never exchange words at all. They talk at each other once or twice and allude to each other, but they never actually share a conversation, which is a fucking shame. There is no character here. Even when he introduces himself to Dev, he mimics Perry's introduction, which could be a nod from the writers or could be implying that Irep has been spying on Perry. But I have no idea which, because there has been nothing for me to go off of. Irep barely speaks. When he does, he never speaks about himself. The writers can't decide if they want Irep to be comedic or an actual threat. There is no strong characterization one way or the other, which admittedly is also a problem that the original series had. However, there it was more forgivable because they weren't pretending to have an overarching plot the way that A New Wish does. So Irep would show up, waste an episode, and then that would be that. Irep starts season 7 when he was introduced wanting to destroy Perry, which fair enough, but by season 8 and 9 he seems to have shifted his focus into destroying Timmy for some reason. Along that vein, Irep being caught somewhere between quirky and funny and actually threatening is fine. He's a baby. It's not a big deal. I'm not going to pretend that it's deep. Season 9 does have Irep and Perry growing closer, particularly at school, which would be interesting if this weren't in season 9, which is not good. It's just not good. That's season 9. Oh god, why did I Why did I watch this episode? With A New Wish trying to turn Irep into the quote-unquote main villain of the season, though, it just falls completely flat. But this is supposed to be a season finale with, like, emotional payoff and high stakes and all that, and there is just nothing to make me believe that Irep would be a credible threat. If he is supposed to be a tool for Dev's character growth, then, like I said earlier, having Dev steal the fairy's wand would have worked just as well and left the plot much less bloated. That would have also helped with a lot of the pacing issues that happen in the Irep episodes, of which there are only 2. It's a whole other character the writers should be focusing on, but they are not. Not only does the writing feel cramped because there's too much going on, but not enough focus is given to any of them. I don't care about Irep as a character or as a threat because he has not been a character or a threat. And there's so many questions that never get answered because Irep never speaks. Like, why is he on Earth? Has he been following Perry around? Does he actually care about Dev, or is Dev just a pawn for him? Anti-Cosmo and Anti-Wanda are there, so we can assume that Irep has a good-ish relationship with them. But there's nothing that any of the characters say to make me believe that. He doesn't interact with his own parents in this episode. There's not even a scene of Irep rubbing his victory in Perry's face, which, following his characterization from the original, Irep would have loved, considering that Perry was doing the same thing to him in Best of Luck. Because Irep isn't grounded in any part of the narrative, he doesn't feel like a believable character. There are no stakes in his relationships or goals because neither of those things exist. I have a lot of problems with the episode Best of Luck, but the important one for this video is that at the end of the episode, Jorgen just throws Irep away. Just picks him up and yeet! He's gone into the horizon, which does a tremendous job of undermining a bunch of world-building stuff that I'm not going to get into right now. But most importantly, completely tosses out any idea of Irep being a threat, which is why in the finale they just had to tuck Jorgen into a corner. Where is he? Who knows? It doesn't matter. Irep has always felt like a disjointed character who exists mostly because he had to from a world-building perspective, and not because the writers had anything specific they wanted to do with him as a character. But at least in the original series, they didn't build Irep up over several episodes like he's supposed to be a threat just to end up wasting my fucking time. I like the concept of Irep, I really do. I think he and Perry could have something very interesting going on. But the fact is that most of this characterization from the fandom exists only in the original or as headcanons. A New Wish gives us nothing to work with as far as Irep's character goes, let alone a dynamic between him and Perry. In short, Irep is a boring-ass character because he is not consistent. He has no real motivation or solid connection with any other character. He feels separate from the rest of the show, and exists mostly as a narrative tool rather than a character I would actually be invested in. And I think that's a damn shame because he could be so interesting. But alas, he is not. Also, he's ugly.